Georgetown, the capital of the Cayman Islands. The city is home to just over 29,000 residents and is the largest city of the British Overseas Territories.
In the mid-19th century, Georgetown proudly replaced Town as the capital of the Cayman Islands. Proudly named after Britain's King George V, the city is home to nearly half the territory's population and is far more modern than other Caribbean capitals. This is largely due to the city's ever-growing population and banking industry, as well as the fact that virtually the entire city had to be rebuilt after Hurricane Ivan devastated the island in 2004. Today, the city's main street is lined with dozens of colorful colonial-style buildings, housing everything from restaurants to high-end duty-free jewelry shops. These factors have made Georgetown one of the Caribbean's most popular cruise ports. Today, however, we'll be focusing on the town's overlooked historical and cultural landmarks.
Oh wow, this is nice. This part of town is called Hero Square. It's the main square of Georgetown, and it commemorates key figures of Caymanian history. This building behind me is the 1919 Peace Memorial, and it honors the Caymanians who served in World War I. This clock tower right here was built in honor of Britain's King George V. This behind me is the Seamen's Memorial. It was unveiled in 2003, and it's dedicated to all those Caymanians who lost their lives at sea. Behind me is a statue of James Manoa Bowden. He's known as the first national hero of the Cayman Islands, and he was a local politician, and he was responsible for developing tourism, banking, and infrastructure, shaping the Cayman Islands of today.
This guy by the coffee shop. Sandwich, morning coffee.
Hey, check this out. This is cool. These coral walls you see behind me are all that remain of Fort George, an English fort that was built in 1790 to defend against possible attacks from pirates and Spanish armadas. Now, the original walls were 2 to 5 feet thick and 5 feet high. A mahogany gate once stood at the fort's landward side, but the fort was by no means well equipped, with only 3 guns, 46-pounders, rather than the original required 8. By the late 20th century, the fort was no longer in use, and in 1972, a local developer began to demolish the structure. But due to public outcry, the demolition was halted, and what remained was preserved for future generations of locals and tourists to learn a bit about the little-known history of this island paradise. Ja, zrobiłem, ja robię. In 1846, a Protestant missionary by the name of James Amesley arrived in Grand Cayman from Jamaica and began establishing a series of churches across the island. One of the largest and most famous was the James Amesley United Memorial Church. Due to several devastating hurricanes, however, the church had to be frequently rebuilt. The current structure we see dates from 1920 and was the brainchild of Navy Captain Raoul Bowling, who designed it in the form of an upturned ship's hull, perhaps to pay homage to the many vessels that sunk off the Cayman shores.
Chcesz iść po tamtej stronie? I potem. Trzeba tą stroną też.
One thing that's really unique about Grand Cayman is that it's one of the only few islands in the Caribbean that has no indigenous history. The island was first sighted by Christopher Columbus in 1503 during his final voyage to the Americas. So this is one place that Columbus actually can claim credit for discovering. And the island's entire history, starting from that discovery all the way to modernization in the tourism and banking industry, is showcased in this building, which now houses the Cayman Islands National Museum.
Housed in the former 19th century Jamaican courthouse, the oldest surviving public building on Grand Cayman, this small museum is dedicated to all things Caymanian, from the island's natural history to its aviation industry.
Now, although most of the museum's interior was gutted and renovated after it was destroyed by Hurricane Ivan in 2004, the hurricane damage also exposed this old prison in this room, not completely destroyed by the hurricane thanks to the thick walls. The hurricane damage actually peeled off the original paint, revealing graffiti left by prisoners in the 19th and 20th century. You can actually see some fossilized coral right here. Check this out, right here we have a fossilized shell too. Believe it or not, limestone is actually composed of the same thing as coral. After millions of years, this will turn limestone. Thank you.
Number one tobacco cigar maker in Cuba. So you want
Thank
to get
you.
souvenir? This is one of the best souvenirs that you can get out of Cuba from the Cayman Islands.
Honestly, I was expecting this place to be almost deserted at this time of the year, because a few years ago only the rich and famous could afford to vacation here, but I guess a lot of people who thought they could never afford to come here, including myself, are starting to realize that they can get much cheaper deals in the summer. So we'll see how that affects the island's tourism.
I'm gonna walk up 7 miles down the beach.
Sodium and a little and vegetable oil. You never drink? I drink it. Nice.
Yeah, I like it too. She doesn't like it.
You don't like it? I love it.
I mean, it has a bit of an earthy flavor and burning aftertaste, but
Right here we have an example of a Caymanian house. I can tell it's more modern, but they try to include a lot of the traditional aspects.
Just go there and just walk straight down on the road. You're gonna see it on the right hand side.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, to Smith Cove.
Smith Cove.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4? Okay, thank you.
we're on the bus just waiting for the driver right now.
Oh wow, so pretty.
We are here.
Yeah, Smith Cove.
How much is it?
US dollars here.
Cayman Islands is fine.
Oh, $4.
Alright, so Georgetown didn't take up as much time as I thought it would. It's only noon right now, so I've decided to catch a public bus out to Smith Cove, which is supposed to be one of the best snorkeling spots on the island.
Nagano phone boy, come Nagano phone. Come Nagano phone, Jemima, come Nagano phone. Come Nagano phone boy, come Nagano phone.
And all this right here is a reminiscent of an old coral reef. Coral everywhere.
I like this beach way better than 7 Mile.
Oh, some rich person's property.
Do you know who live here?
Well, definitely have no penalty.